Lakeland Currents, your public affairs program for North Central Minnesota. Production funding for Lakeland Currents is made possible by Bemidji Regional Airport, serving the region with daily flights to Minneapolis-St. Paul International Airport. More information available at bemidjiairport.org. Closed captioning for Lakeland Currents is sponsored by Nisswa Tax Service, tax preparation for businesses and individuals. Online at nisswatax.com.
Hello again, friends. I'm Jason Edens, your host of Lakeland Currents. Thanks for joining the conversation today, and thanks for your ongoing support of Lakeland Public TV. 2020 has been a year unlike any other. From athletics to distance learning to graduation and more, everything is different for this year's high school seniors and school students all across the state. So what is top of mind for our youth leaders today? What are our youth leaders' perceptions of the future? Well, here to answer those questions and many more are my two guests today. So it's my pleasure to introduce to you Joel Roberts, Student Council President at Bemidji High School, and Emma True, Student Council President at Brainerd High School, both seniors. Joel and Emma, it's nice to meet you both, and thank you so much for making time. I really do appreciate it.
It's great to be here.
It's great to be here as well.
Well, first of all, I'm really interested to get your perceptions about distance learning. Of course, we've all been hearing a great deal about distance learning, so I'm eager to hear from you. Is it working? Do you feel that your education has been compromised in any way, shape, or form? Is the quality of the education as good as it was before distance learning? What do you have to say about that? Let's start with Joel.
All right, I think we have limited options. I think distance learning is it is what it is kind of at this point. I know we've said that a lot this year, but I would say that I feel it is not quite the same. There's certainly a lot of benefits to being in class full time. I know there's some students who prefer it. I've talked to students who do great with it, and they like just kind of doing their own thing. They can organize their schedule kind of however they want to organize it. They have more free time, but there are a lot of students who struggle with it. I think being at home, not being able to have that direct access to your teachers and to your peers when you need help, and it's very different. So I think there is definitely a lot of value to in-person learning, and hopefully we'll be able to get back to that over the next couple months.
Emma, has your experience been similar? What do you have to say about distance learning?
Yeah, I would personally agree with Joel. There's a lot of pros and cons to distant learning. I personally have been enjoying it because of my flexibility in my schedule, because it's allowed me to go to work and still attend school at the same time to take on a couple extra hours. But in Brainerd, there is a lot of poverty. And so I know that a lot of people do not have access to the internet. So even though the school district has tried to provide Chromebooks and different wireless internet, I know it's super difficult for some people to log on to their classes and not be able to experience and learn all the things that they can learn. The teachers have been, I would like to shout out to the teachers. They have been doing a wonderful job at Brainerd, and I assume in Bemidji as well, to make sure that the students are enriched and able to have access to different learning materials even without their internet access. And I just think that overall, kind of going back to what Joel said, that even though that this is not the most what is the word? I'm sorry.
No, not at all. What's really interesting, Emma, is you've already actually addressed two things that I wanted to ask about at some point today. One of which is whether or not distance learning is working equally for everyone, because you definitely hit on a big concern with distance learning, which is connectivity, right? Especially in rural Minnesota or rural America, not everyone has equal access to the internet. So how are you seeing your schools adapt to that? So since you brought it up, Emma, how is Brainerd dealing with the fact that there's not equal access to broadband, for example?
So I think Brainerd has been doing a great job trying to connect students who aren't able to have access to the internet. Like I said in my previous statement, that they have been trying to get out wireless routers to have students be able to be connected. Ever since going on to the elementary school, they have been giving the option of emergency care. So people who aren't able to learn distantly, they are able to send their children to learn in a physical environment. So if that's one of the options, and then teachers are able to send out like paper packets and in-depth instructions on how to teach at home for the parents. And then for the high school, I know they've been giving different options similar to the elementary school. So yeah.
You know, you also mentioned something about how the teachers have been really nimble at Brainerd and really adapted to this new normal, if we can call it that. And I was going to ask you about that. I'm really curious to learn more about how the instructors at both high schools are adapting. Joel, have you found that the Bemidji teachers have also done a good job of kind of pivoting to this new method of instruction? I suspect that most teachers also prefer in-class teaching. So what's your experience been, Joel?
I would definitely agree with what Emma said. The teachers have really done a great job, and they've been working incredibly hard, I think, to adapt, because this isn't what they went to college for. How to use computers and run these meetings. It's difficult. It's not easy, and there's a lot of learning that the teachers kind of had to do over the summer, and last March as we first kind of begin this, and even more as we've gone back and forth with the hybrid model versus the fully distance. So yeah, I think the teachers have done an incredible job.
Tell me, I'm interested to hear a specific example of how either your schools or maybe a specific teacher has made the most of this distance learning environment. Do you have any really interesting examples of creative uses of technology in this new classroom? Either one of you.
I can go first.
Please.
So I'm in the Brainerd a cappella choir, and so obviously in choir you sing, and so the distant learning has been making it quite difficult for the students to be active, especially me. But Mr. Stubbs, our choral director and choir teacher, he's been doing an amazing job trying to keep kids active and involved and making sure they're growing in their singing and in like maturing as singers and as students. And so during our classes, Mr. Stubbs keeps us active by like goofing around and trying to catch our attentions while he's playing the piano. And we attempt to sing via Zoom or like Google Meet, but we try our best to do that. But I just think teachers like Mr. Stubbs and a lot of other teachers of mine have been just trying to keep all the students engaged as best as they can with different activities and just super silly different actions. And so I think that just makes the class, and it just makes distant learning 10 times better.
Nice. Real positive attitude there. That's great to hear. How about you, Joel? Any interesting ways of adapting to this new classroom from the teachers?
Yeah, I think with us, for the music department especially, has been really forced to be creative. I'm involved in band in Bemidji, and yeah, it's been pretty different. We have, instead of having our full rehearsal with everybody, now we have we have sectionals where people work together, and we have time where we talk about they've implemented like a leadership training course kind of into the music program, which I thought was very interesting. So like every Wednesday we set aside some time to work on talking about leadership skills and basically just how that can be applied to life in general as well as to music, and being part of a musical ensemble. And yeah, I mean, I think for them in particular, it is really it's required a lot of creativity.
Mm-hmm. Well, you're both musicians, evidently, and I was going to ask you about extracurricular activities, whether it's jazz band like you, Joel. I understand you play saxophone in the jazz band, or maybe it's football or basketball. I'm really interested to learn how students are dealing with the fact that they may have been looking forward to the basketball season, for example, but it's in jeopardy, right? So what are you hearing from your peers, or what are you guys experiencing with regard to some of your extracurricular activities? Emma.
I'm personally in track and field, and so obviously last spring my junior season was taken away from us because of COVID. But I have a lot of friends who are athletes and in different clubs and organizations. I know a lot of my athletic friends have been pretty hit pretty hard with the counseling of like sports. Since we're seniors, they had their senior seasons taken away from them. And so it wasn't a traditional year, even though they were able to have like 5 practices. I know this fall that football, well, obviously the Minnesota High School League allowed sports to continue this year, But a couple weeks after we began our fall sports, our school shut down because of too many cases for COVID. And so I know a lot of athletes haven't been able to participate as they wanted to. But then for extracurriculars and like clubs, Key Club, for example, and like other interactive clubs have been trying to keep active as possible. And so they've been taking on, rather than being school focused, they've been focusing on the community and how to bring it forward and to help other people. So they've been like packing food for the outreach program, which goes towards Kids Against Hunger. And so they were distributing, that organization was distributing food around the Brainerd Lakes area and across the country. So.
Interesting. So Joel, is the jazz band still performing?
Not currently. We kind of in November when the state kind of shut down all like extracurricular activities, we had to stop practicing because there's really with a small ensemble like that, it's very difficult to do virtually. And so I believe we'll be starting back up again on January 4th because the press conference yesterday they decided to allow stuff like that to start up again. So I'm looking forward to that. But we've had a lot of the same, as Emma said, in our school. We were lucky enough to be able to continue having, a hybrid learning model and sports and activities until November when kind of we had that spike. I think it was right around week of Thanksgiving. There was that spike when everything shut down again. And I know there were a lot of students who were very, very upset about losing activities. And it's a big deal for us. Like that's our community. That's what we do for fun. That's where all our friends are. And, for me, it was a difficult thing. It's like, I know I would much rather be in school. I'd much rather seeing my friends and participating in this stuff. But at the same time, like you have to recognize people are dying. Like what value are we placing on our freedom to go out and see our friends and do these fun things? You have to put it into perspective a little bit. Some people have bigger concerns than you do right now. And that's the reality of 2020. So it has been difficult. And I know a lot of students were really happy yesterday to hear that sports will be resuming January 4th.
Well, those are wise words, and that certainly is encouraging that extracurricular activities will likely resume soon. But I want to follow up on that a little bit more because, as you said, right, school is not just about the classroom. It's about socializing. It's about establishing lifelong friendships. And so how would you describe mental health overall? I mean, you're obviously still interacting with your classmates. So how's everyone doing? What's your impression of mental health among your peers?
It's been a bit tough. We're doing the best we can. I know a lot of teachers have been trying to have us like work in groups kind of in class. So, we use in Google Meet and on Zoom, there are breakout rooms. So you can do some group projects to interact with your friends. You can see like a couple of your friends maybe at a time outside of school safely. And it's not easy. And I know a lot of students have been concerned about, mental health stuff. As a student council, we've been working on ways to help alleviate that and make sure there are resources available to those students who need them, as well as, trying to put information out in the community about, please, be following these guidelines, be wearing your masks so that we can get back into school, so that we can have activities again, so that businesses can be open. That's something that we've kind of been pushing for, because, the question is kind of, what can you do? Because this is, this is not a super fun time for a lot of us, especially I think for the senior class. It's rough to lose all that.
Well, Emma, what's the Brainerd Student Council doing, or student government rather, doing for the community? How are you engaging, or how is the student government reacting to the COVID reality right now?
So, student council, personally, we've been trying to stay as active as we can, no matter, like, even though we've had a lot of bumps in the road because of our COVID cases. Our school hasn't been able to meet in person, like prior to the state shutting down again. But we've been trying to stay active, like try to get out in our community. So we did this event called We Scare Hunger. So on Halloween, we went around the Brainerd neighborhoods collecting non-perishable goods for the Salvation Army, and we collected 550 pounds of non-perishable items to donate.
Wow.
So that was a lot of fun. And so we followed all the guidelines, wore our masks and all of that. We even got to dress up in Halloween costumes. So that was fun. But we're trying to stay active throughout our student body as well. So we came up with the concept where going to be writing postcards and uplifting notes to the student body. So we're going to start with the freshman class and go up to the senior class to just make sure that kids know that there is light in the dark and that there is hope throughout this whole thing, and that eventually there will be an end to COVID and everything will go to somewhat normal, our normalcy. And then we also collected, we're doing staff appreciation gifts because distant learning is just as hard on the teachers as it is the students. So we wanted to make sure that they knew that they were appreciated for going the extra mile for the students and being super flexible. But otherwise, we're just trying to find new ideas and just try to stay as active as we can.
Well, that is really heartwarming, and I'm really impressed. And obviously, student leadership right in front of us right here. So I appreciate that. Is it safe to assume that both of you are college bound or interested in going to college?
Yes.
Yes? Okay, well, I'm curious, how are you dealing with that this year? Because isn't it true that most of the standardized tests have been postponed or delayed or maybe even canceled? Is that right?
Mm-hmm.
So is the college application process continuing forward? Tell me a little bit about how that's working for the two of you and some of your peers. Joel, why don't you take a crack at that one?
Okay. It's definitely, it's been challenging. I think one thing in particular for me is like, you can't travel right now. You can't go visit campuses. And so it's hard to know, like I've got, 4 or 5 different places that I think I'd really like to go, but I haven't actually ever been there. And so it's a little bit hard to like, I'm worried I'm going to have to make a decision, without having a whole lot of confidence and,
Sure.
that's the one right place. And they have a lot of resources online. I know the colleges have been putting out a lot online, and maybe I'm going out on a limb here, but I believe most campuses or most colleges have kind of waived the SAT or ACT requirement because so many of them were canceled. I know I was signed up originally for one back in April that obviously didn't happen, and I signed up for a couple over the summer, and eventually we did get one in Bemidji in October. We had an ACT, but would have liked to have been able to take it more than once if I could have. And there's so many questions kind of to be asked, and it's very different, I think, than in previous years, but we're getting through it.
Emma, how about in Brainerd?
So I signed up kind of like what Joel was saying. The ACT has been canceled multiple times, and then we have been able to take it at least twice. But I'm coming from, I'm going to be a first generation college student this year, or like this upcoming fall. And so the college process from the start has been kind of complicated, but my parents and I took a trip down to Iowa. So we have been able to tour a couple schools, which has been super nice. But the school that I applied to, or most of them, have waived the ACT score, score and all of that. So kind of like what Joel was saying. But I know that a lot of the colleges that I was looking at have been super helpful with just, if you reach out, they'll try to help you as best as they can. And they know that it's a difficult time like right now because of COVID, and the not being able to travel has been difficult, but I feel like it's still been going pretty good.
Well, congratulations first and foremost for being the first person in your family. That's great to hear about. What about graduation this year? I know that a lot of your peers last year, seniors who graduated in the class of 2020, had a very unconventional graduation. So are you optimistic about having a normal graduation this spring?
I'm pretty confident that, so I'll actually go back to last year. So the graduating class of 2020 had this car parade put on for them. And so they met up at BIR, which is the International Raceway in Brainerd. And so they had like a graduation ceremony for them and like a recognition. And so I feel like even though they weren't able to have a graduation, they still put something on. And I feel I have that confidence about this upcoming year that I don't think we're going to be able to have a normal graduation. hopefully, depending on how the vaccine goes. But I feel like no matter what circumstance is going on, I know Brainerd and the parents and the faculty will try to put something on and have a recognition for this class's graduation.
Thanks, Emma. What do you think, Joel? Is it going to be a normal graduation up in Bemidji?
I am optimistic that we'll have a more normal graduation than the class of 2020 did. I know there were a lot of people last year who, they at first they were a little bit like, really, we got to, ride around in cars. And I think they went from the Sanford Center to the high school in this parade. But a lot of people actually kind of thought it was really a lot of fun.
Mm-hmm.
So like, it's not such a bad option really either to do that. I think it's definitely different. It's unconventional, but it's still pretty cool.
Absolutely. Not many people can say they had a graduation like that, right?
Right.
Well, great. Hey, I want to ask you about something that's not necessarily related to COVID. So I'm curious, are the two of you familiar with the term brain drain? Either one of you? So basically, it's the departure of talent from a community, from a state, from a country, right, where the intellectual capacity actually ends up leaving that community. So I'm curious to ask, I'm eager to ask the two of you as youth leaders, student leaders, do you intend to bring your skills, your talents, your knowledge back to your home community of Brainerd and Bemidji after college, for example, once you enter the working world? What are your thoughts about that at this point in time?
So I'm actually my plan right now is to go to school to become a pastor in the ELCA. And so I believe hopefully I'll be able to come back to my community to serve at a church or in an area camp. And so I'm not sure on if I'll be back to Brainerd, but I feel like I will be in the northeastern Minnesota. But yeah, because I feel like leadership in the church is pretty vital right now, especially with all of the mental health, because in my church personally and other congregations, they have done a lot to help the mental health stigmatism and just try to reach out and make sure that people know that they have support. They have a support system there. And so I believe that I really want to bring back like the awareness and just to be that support system to people that need it. And so, yeah, I do believe that I will be back in the future. So.
Joel, how about you? Are you going to bring your skills to bear on the Minnesota community?
I don't know for sure quite yet. I've thought about maybe going somewhere a little bit further away for college just to try something a little bit different. I think of the Bemidji, there's not a ton of like, there's a lot here, but there's not like a whole lot in terms of just like science and technology stuff that I've kind of wanted to go into for a long time. So like, I have no idea what I'm going to do.
Fair enough.
That's the reality of it. So, we'll see. It's definitely possible.
Well, I appreciate your candor, both of you. I want to ask you a question about COVID silver linings. I think there have been more than a handful of things that we've all realized in hindsight have actually been some sort of positive adaptation, maybe. So I kind of want to ask you a two-pronged question. What's been a COVID silver lining and how has COVID changed you?
Yeah, so I have a couple of things. So during quarantine, I'm a very active person and I'm not home that often. And so I would say I've been able to spend a lot of time with my family and I've been able to reconnect my relationships with my brother and my parents. So that's been really nice. But I really like how COVID has COVID has allowed me to go out into my community safely and distribute food and just to volunteer my time. My mom has recently accepted a job as an associate coordinator at the Sharing Bread Soup Kitchen in Brainerd. So I've been able to volunteer passing out food and packing bags for the community. And so that's been super fun. And then I've also been able to figure out my organizational skills. And so, because I'm not the most organized person, but having distant learning and having all this stuff going on with college and all that, it's allowed me to become more of an organized person and to grow, like, mature, basically. Yeah.
Joel, how about you?
It's definitely, I think there are definitely some benefits of it, just like on a community aspect, I think with us at the high school, it really kind of has brought a lot of us together because we've had to work so hard just, for, all these things that we took for granted, sports and activities and being able to see our friends every day. And so I think that's like the biggest thing that we've gotten out of it. I know me personally, I have unfortunately not gained the organization skills that Emma has. My desk is a mess, but it gives you a little bit more time to just, be by yourself, perhaps too much time, but yeah, gives you more time with your family. It's a
Well, I
good thing.
certainly hope this isn't the case, but if we were to ever experience a pandemic again in our lifetimes, is there anything that you would do as future leaders, or anything you would do differently, say, for example, at the school level, in reaction to a global pandemic like this? Emma, is there anything you would do different? In other words, what have we learned from this experience in terms of how we deliver education?
Yeah, I would probably say that the communication skills should probably have more of like, it should grow and improve, because I love the high school and I love everything that the teachers have been doing. But personally, as seniors, I haven't, like, for the senior class, we haven't really been communicated with about like graduation and like scholarship opportunities. They were posting stuff in the announcements, but that's on a Google form, a Google document. And so a lot of students aren't able to view those, or they just miss them in their emails. So I just think that if this were to happen again, we should try to improve on the communication between the administration and the students, and probably the community as well, because I know a lot of parents don't know a lot about the opportunities that the school is providing for the students, because this kids obviously sometimes just forget about it and don't relay the message onto their parents. And so, yeah.
Well, unfortunately, you two, that's all the time we have. I would really enjoy talking to you even more, and I'd like to invite you to come back to the show in the future so we can learn how you've accomplished your many personal aspirations. It was a real pleasure to meet the both of you, and I'm so glad that we could share the perspective of student leaders with our viewers today. So thank you so much for your time.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, thank you.
And thank all of you for joining us once again. I'm Jason Edens, your host of Lakeland Currents. Be kind and be well. We'll see you next week.